Hey, welcome everybody to podcast number 39, presented by 5 Pin Universe. I'm your host, Karie Kreutz. We got the Wiseman twins, Dexter and Tim, and we have Adam Weber. It's just the podcast crew once again. We did have a couple guests lined up, but memories have failed them and stuff got in the way, so just us again for one more week.
We
Well,
asked
Michael Wick
Michael
failed.
Wist. Yeah, we asked him like 10 minutes ago, and he was like, "No, guys, I'm watching a movie." So,
Disney Plus.
thanks
I
for
hear.
that. Thanks for that. We
Disney
said
Plus.
so many nice things about you last week.
that Disney Plus subscription gets everybody. So, our first topic was a question I posed on Facebook a while back, early last week, regarding sponsors for professional 5 pin bowling stuff out west. And I just want to reiterate, like, 5 Pin Universe is not part of the WCBT. We're just a sponsor of the WCBT. So we're just looking to help out these professional bowlers or the professional associations as to how they can get more sponsorship, more outreach through sponsorship. And my main target was bowling manufacturers. I tagged a couple groups in there like Dexter Bowling, Phipps Bowling. I tagged Bufa in there, Epco Manufacturing. Bufa obviously responded, but they're more of a distributor. They don't manufacture bowling products as such, especially for 5 pin bowling. But companies like the Dexters, the Storms, the Epcos, um, I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on to what they need to see in order to maybe come out and sponsor some of these events, maybe even sponsor a player? Like Adam Weber would be a perfect example as a person that only plays Star Lines made by Epco. You would think they'd jump all over that. If you want to play like the number one, or used to be the number one player in the rankings, throw Star Lines, right? That should be a marketing material for them. And it works so well in 10 pin and it's overlooked in 5 pin. Maybe it's because bowling balls seem to last forever in 5 pin bowling, and maybe that's they don't see a big upside to it. But what are your guys' thoughts on it?
At least on the shoe side of the game, they definitely do not have the lifespan that bowling balls do. They used to. I remember. I mean, we still have seniors that have bowling shoes that have been around for literally 50 years, and you cannot destroy the things. They don't make them that way anymore, and the technology's changed too. Back in the day, you didn't have the replaceable sliders and heels and all that fun stuff too. So yeah, that creates new challenges. But um, I feel like they are designed to break down in a period of time. Um, so I think that's something that the bowling shoe companies should approach the 5 pin bowlers about. Those are the things that we have to replace every couple of years. Adam Weber replaces them all the time. He may not change bowling shoes very often, but he's probably bowling balls very often. But he's probably the person that I know who changes his sliders or the leading edge or whatever he can to get like his appropriate amount of slide, probably more than anybody I know in the game. So the shoes are so vital to our game. They should be approaching us more, I think. And I think what we need to do is maybe get them some numbers. You know, we have this many people playing 5 pin across Canada that nothing gets sponsored for. It's way more than 10 pin. I think in for a Bowl Canada standpoint, I think there was something like 250 5 pin centers and maybe like 60 10 pin centers. It's a drastic number difference. Get them those numbers, get them the numbers of members that are involved with that, but also maybe it's time we start like reaching out to the bowlers at the higher levels of the game, and we talk about the what everybody's wearing for shoes all the time, and a common trend over most of our podcasts is I've been creating these customized shoes that I've been gluing the sliders and stuff on, or I have a pair of shoes, but I think the next one I'm going to do is a customized pair of shoes. Maybe it's time that we need to reach out to these people, create a survey, create some sort of data where it's like, okay, I have this style of shoe, I have this style of shoe, or I'm making my own shoes, or whatnot, and then give that information to the bowling shoe developers out there, because they are losing touch with the 5-pin side of the game. 10-pin is massive, but they are really, really starting to lose people in the 5-pin side of the game.
I think the biggest thing is the game is so much different on the slides between the 5-pin and 10-pin, right? In 5-pin, we have that really long slide in comparison to 10-pin, and I think the shoes just take more of a beating, and that's probably why there is so much of the replacement of whether it's the actual shoes themselves or the sliders or the heels, and obviously they're breaking down so much more these days, those especially the sliders. And then of course now the new sliders are $70 or $80 to replace, right? Which is also kind of ridiculous. I think some of the manufacturers are really missing the boat on taking a look at the Canadian game and see if there might be a bit of a design change that they can really utilize within our game that would also benefit, some of the 10-pin players down there as well. But I really don't think that we should be the ones that have to provide that data. Obviously we could run those surveys and try to help them out. But if you're a business, would your goal not to be to grow your business, right? And look at all avenues, and is it a viable market? This is what Canada's fourth greatest invention. It's our second greatest invention. Is ahead of insulin, right? Like it's a huge sport. The amount of players that are in there, and I think if they were able to bring the right product to the market, I think most people would end up going with that product rather than looking at other alternatives. But it's kind of almost the new norm to look at alternatives because costs are ridiculous now, and the comfort just doesn't make sense. They just don't last long enough.
I straight out think that when was the last time, Dexter, we've ever seen a rep other than from a distributor at our center?
I mean, we've seen Bufa's come out and visited us.
Yeah,
and that's a distributor, but we have never ever seen one of those companies' producers out there.
So I guess we Karie had an opportunity to go down to Vegas. They really didn't care much. I mean, we didn't really talk to a lot of them, but they really had no inkling. Oh, you're from Canada, whatever. See you later, kind of thing, right? Had real no gumption to have a conversation with us or cared really what we were doing up north. As much as Adam can say, like, they can learn something from us, probably at the end of the day, we're probably 5% of what their total sales are worldwide. They probably don't really care too much about it. And unfortunately, I think that's what we really have to understand. Maybe we just adapt and figure out our own custom shoes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way we go. Maybe somebody else can come and do something like that.
Yeah, the only argument I have against that is you see all these companies, and I've worked for companies like that, where they're always worried about, we want to grow next year by 5%, right? That's their goal.
Yeah.
So if we are only 5% of their total sales, if they lose us, they're down 5% on their total sales, right? A company can be so big, and really their main focus may not be on that small minority, but they are still going to put some effort into it because it's still a percentage of their sales. And I just don't think we're loud enough, right? Like, we have 5-Pin Universe has a decent amount of followers, WCBT has a decent amount of followers, Canadian 5-Pin has a decent amount of followers. Why don't these associations hopefully get together and speak loud to these manufacturers? This is our game. This is what we're here for. These costs of these bowling shoes are going through the roof. Like, what is it now for a pair of SST 9s?
$375.
Yeah.
Plus the tax.
That's absolutely insane.
And your interchangeable slider and heels is like $55-$60 each, right?
Yeah.
I have a hard time. Dexter and I know we talked about this. I will never try to sell those shoes to anybody because you're not going to get the money back off them. And then if you have to replace something, you're going to pay all that money again. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. I really think, honestly, the only real people that really, maybe other than the WCBT now, and if maybe Club Tour gets something with a professional standpoint on it, but I really think that Boat Canada is the one that has to be doing this, because Boat Canada has proprietors in their back pocket that will be willing to maybe get that information. If it's coming from another association like the Masters or 510 or whatever else, that I just don't think they'll see it and read the money, like read the stuff accordingly, right? I think if us proprietors are the ones putting up the poster up on the wall, we're selling the stuff, we're giving the information to the bowlers, right? It's part of our job to give them the right information, and I think about 90% of proprietors out there just sell the stuff and don't give the consumer the right information, right, Dex? How many times do we say, hey, you know what? Right. You're like, I want this ball in this size. You know what? You're 7 years old. You don't need that ball, right? You don't need the SST9s at that age, right? But people will just sell it because it's what they want. But I don't know.
But that's a good thing for the manufacturers and distributors. They want you to sell that, even though it may not be best for the bowler at that time. As a distributor, you're trying to overturn your product, get it out there, sell it, and bring in next year's stock, right? Professionals can be marketed to help that, right? Like, you got these young YBC players in juniors and coming up to seniors, and they see Adam Weber there on an afternoon practicing at Sherwood Bowl. Don't you think they're kind of wondering, well, what kind of shoes is Adam wearing? What kind of bowling balls does Adam throw that he's so good at the game? You would think if there was a poster or a cutout cardboard of, let's not say Adam, let's say Mitch Davies from Ontario. Everybody hears about him. Well, Mitch Davies throws this product and Dexter sponsors him. I think that would produce people selling or buying that product. It may not be as big as like a Pete Weber in 10-pin because they got national coverage and stuff like that, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but Epco is a candle pin duck pin company making 5-pin balls in the States, right? For example, right?
But they advertise 5-pin bowling balls on their website. So if they spent the time saying that this can be used for 5-pin as well, they've spent some marketing time to even put that up. So
I fully understand that. I just
5-pin bowling Canadian market's a lot bigger than the duck pin market, I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely, but Epco, and I'm not saying you're wrong there, Karie, by any means. I think Epco hasn't changed since the Open, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, right? And I think that has to change too, right? Phibbs is the only really true Canadian bowling ball manufacturer out there. Yeah. Right, and his is, it's really a small operation compared to the whole thing too, right?
Yes, for sure.
But he has the opportunity to make whatever he wants to out of it, because he does bands too, I think, right? So
the average strikes.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, me personally, just looking at marketing wise, there's so much opportunity out there, and I think these companies are missing it.
And it wouldn't take much. No. It wouldn't. I mean, I don't think any of us here would say no to, hey, Dexter Shoe Company wants to sponsor you. They're gonna give you a pair of shoes. They want to take a picture of you saying, hey, I'm so and so. I use these shoes.
Yeah, I got a 2-year contract with Dexter, and they give me a pair of shoes, one for each year. That would, every professional 5-pin bowler at this point in time would take that deal and wear Dexter on their back. That's a no-brainer, and that's huge advertising for Dexter, because that's at least 4 different tournaments, 4 WCBT tournaments, out on the lanes for close to 7 hours per shift at some points, with advertising going on all the time. I don't
know. For pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. Essentially.
In product, right?
Yeah. You think how big that logo will be on Adam's back too, right? That's huge marketing.
Lots of real estate.
A lot of real estate.
But what about, like, it would be, pretty minimal cost to make a cutout of Mitch too, right? It's pretty tiny,
exactly.
Right?
Only so much cardboard.
But his shoes only go up to size 8.5, so you can only buy them in that size.
It's almost like the amusement park ride thing. He must be this tall.
And unfortunately, I think you're going to start seeing, like Tim, you were saying, people are building their own shoes and stuff like that. Maybe somebody starts a small company with building bowling shoes, and another 5-pin bowling ball manufacturer starts out west here. and they jump into that hole in the market. I don't know. You always hear rumors that there's people developing bowling balls out east. There's been rumors out west. There's been people talking about building bowling shoes and building it for other people for a small fee, right? So there is a market developing. And not that maybe I want them to flourish more than I want Dexter to come in and steal the show, but it's kind of sad to see these giant bowling companies not supporting the bowling itself.
But
especially considering just the wave that Five Pin's on right now, and the likely continued growth of it. Now, would you not want to get in the market like now, as everything's starting to grow? While you have influence, while there's more influence all across Canada within the sport, like now is the time, right? And it's too big a market for these guys not to look at.
Yeah, I mean, especially for a company like Dexter, like right now they could grab a stranglehold. Like Brunswick just bought out
EBI.
Yeah, Ebonite, and which was like Linz and Hammer and all those, and they're moving their factories to Mexico, and but I mean, they're going to be distracted. They're not going to give a crap about us for a number of years, because they got to get their stuff straightened out first. So if Dexter wants a stranglehold, now's the time.
Really. Or does Brunswick come in and try to take that market, knowing that they're going to need that market share?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like it's strange. It's kind of a good time for Five Pin Bowling because the professional side is growing so much that I think it's like Adam, you're saying, it is the right time that these companies start jumping in, and you're starting to see sponsorships for players, for local companies out of their local areas or whatever like that. That's going on, and that's getting stronger. But bowling manufacturers seem to be lagging behind, and I don't know, maybe they think the bowling market's collapsing and they just don't want to spend the extra marketing money. I don't know, but like I said in the post, I think it's just something that's being missed, and anytime I'm going to bring it up, and hopefully people will be listening and share, like, comment on this kind of stuff to help bring awareness to the situation. Hopefully it drives prices down and your local your local bowlers can afford new Dexter shoes instead of paying $400 for them, because they're not going to buy them for that price.
No.
Hey, that was good.
All right. Okay, well, I'll bring up a topic then, okay? Well, first of all, I guess I have a new role on this podcast. I'm supposed to say congratulations to high scores and whatnot. And so Karie just slacks off and passes things off. So we had a 448 in Winnipeg at the St. James Friday Night Scratch League, Jaden Nickerson. So congratulations, Jaden. Welcome to the club. I have a 448 myself, so I feel your pain there, bud. And a 450, Ben Hendrickson from Prince George, BC, and during the BC North Open, he shoots a perfect game at Nechako. So the better Hendrickson finally throws a perfect game. So
did he go
hashtag
thank you, Dex?
No, this one's already relative.
Robbie and Brett, you gotta step up your games. You're being passed. Let's go, boys.
That perfect game was impressive. I only got to see the last three shots, but all of them looked really confident and clean out of his hand. Like it didn't look like it phased him at all. So good for him. It was also on one of the sets of lanes that they had a leak coming from the roof, patched up with a garbage bag.
Yeah.
So what? I mean, honestly, that is remarkable focus. I don't know what the conditions are, but I would be sitting there thinking, like, is this thing gonna fall on my head?
Yeah.
So that incredible. Good for you, man.
Yeah.
I guess that's a topic. Have any of you guys had bowling hazards in your way while you're at a bowling alley? I saw two in Nechako. I saw the garbage bag being taped up to the front with a dripping roof on lane 1. And I think it was on 6. I think it was. Somebody sent me a Snapchat, and you couldn't bowl on the left-hand side of the approach because there was water dripping on there. So they had a rag, so you could only play on the right side. So imagine playing an event, a BC Zone Open, and you could only play on the right side of the approach on lane number 6. So I've never had to deal with that. I know Jeff England's talked about lost bowling balls at Sherwood. Yeah,
under the gutters.
Under the gutters, and there's been buckets on the lanes in Sherwood, but this is wild, man. Like, yeah.
One of the ones that I seen back in the day was, I think it was Wednesday match play at Bonnie Doon before the synthetics went in. Casey Campbell got a spike through his shoe, the splinter. He lost the little Dynaroos slider in the board or something like that. I think it was. Yeah. And Charles Hahn got the splinter in his shoe.
Yeah.
Is this crazy wood breaking down?
I saw, Joe Wood had a huge spike. It was probably about almost 5 inches long. Go right through a Teflon slider at Paradise one year.
Like, honestly, and it happens. It happens with wood lanes. And it happened to us one time to somebody in our open play. And literally, there's not much you could do. You never know when a board is going to break. And those spikes, they're usually like hairline cracks that you can't even see, and then somebody just catches it the wrong way and yanks that whole piece right up. And it's crazy. That's why, you know what, we've had people for years trying to be like, hey, can we go sock bowling after whatever tournament? I'm like, no,
geez.
Hell no chance. Not on wood lanes. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Please don't do it.
No.
Tim, you had an interesting one in Toronto the one time, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We National Classifieds 2014 or 2015. Anthelay. So we're at Rexdale Lanes. I tell you what, it was probably the scummiest place I've ever played at, and I played a lot of places before. Lucky nobody got a staph infection in the bathroom, but when we're in there, it was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. So when we're in there, we played on the first 8 lanes the first day, and then the back 8 lanes the second day. And all I remember was the poor judge would play. She actually was teaching masters next week, and she had a shot back out. And every couple frames, it was on 3 and 4. She had turned the shot back on and suck up all the ants that were coming up and all the ones that were stuck on the approach from people sliding. It was absolutely, it was wild. Like, we finished 2.5 hours before the ladies did. It was just wild. Like, you couldn't believe it. I know you can hear it the shot back. You can ask Jimmy Llewellyn. Jimmy was there, and Tom Williams were there. It was quite the experience. Yeah.
I just want to say that, like, you know, we're not here trying to bash centers or anything like that. Things happen, and everybody's doing the best they can, for the most part. But there are some, like, just funny situations that, like, you just never expect to deal with.
Well, I know this has been a common theme in the last couple nationals, but Anique with the raised foul lines, right?
Yeah.
It's something you have to deal with. It's out of the norm, and I felt sorry for the players that laid the ball down because it didn't work very well.
Yeah. You had to play outside. If you played outside lines, you're okay. You'd also avoid the bubbles in the synthetics.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. I think it was 2013 Masters in Newfoundland. There was one house there. It was a little 8-lane house. Of course, it's July long weekend, so it's stupid hot already. 8 lanes of guys, like big sweaty guys in that, and then you took a look down. There's like 2 steps down or something like that to the lino, and you could actually see the lino like sweltering. Right there was all of this water and everything, so you couldn't even walk down there. So everybody's up on these 8 lanes. One of the worst shifts I've ever had to play in. And then I had that Eric Chose hazard there in Regina last year. That was that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it was the fly. The fly landed in front of you and tripped you. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
that's
that
what
was another
happened.
one.
Yeah, we had that in Scottsdale the one year because it was always so warm in there. They had the outside doors open, and we had a dragonfly break where there was one landing on the middle of the lanes all over, and everyone was waiting to try to get that thing out of there. There was a Friday night league in Sherwood that I chased out a bat.
A bat.
It snuck in the back door, and I was like, "Oh, what am I gonna do?" So I took a Smirnoff ice box and taped it to a stick, and I was running around the bowling alley until the thing ended up sitting on a wall, and I had to I hooked the box on him, and then slid the box down the wall, and slid another piece of cardboard on top of it, and caught the bat, and just took it outside and threw it out. So.
Dexter, speaking of Sherwood Bowl and hazards, what about the poos near on the lanes 2006 there, buddy?
Oh no. Yeah, so it was a Monday night league, and I don't know who or how or what happened, but all I know is all of a sudden there was this big kerfuffle on lane 7 and 8. It was actually on the right hand side of lane 8. I'll never forget. And someone just came up to me and showed me his shoe, and he was really angry. And this is as bad as my swearing is going to get because I'm just going to quote him directly. But he's like, "I slid through shit. It's on my shoe." What? Take a look at my shoe. So I had to clean his shoe. And I had to clean the lanes. And I don't know what happened, but somebody was up there getting ready to throw a ball and rolled out a nugget on his right pant leg or something. I don't know.
Oh man.
The joys of being a proprietor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we weren't even proprietors then. I was just some lowly pin chaser cashier that had to go clean the crap off someone's shoe.
Literally.
I still don't get paid enough for that.
So that's a good question to our audience. What malfunctions have you seen at a bowling alley? And please comment on this post when it goes up on Facebook.
No.
Yeah,
We want to hear the stories.
We're not talking about Mike Herbert's car or his bowling bag or his shoes.
No, we
or
want
his glasses
in-house stories
or anything like that.
Or his forehead.
His forehead.
Yep.
Well, there was the one time at Wednesday match. Don't wear jeans a bowl, people. Don't wear jeans a bowl. And if you are going to wear jeans a bowl, get stretch jeans and bowl in those. Costco sells them. They're fantastic. There was one Wednesday match where I ripped my jeans from my crotch to my left knee, all the way down. And I really wasn't too worried about it. I had boxers on, so I was like, oh, well, whatever. So I bowled the rest of the night. No big deal. Came in the next week. I didn't learn my lesson, and I wore another pair of jeans, and I ripped them from crotch to knee again. I was like, oh, well, I'm wearing boxers. No big deal. Until I'm sitting there talking to my good friend, Katie Harris, I'm checking the time, and we're just chatting away, and I look down, I'm like, I'm showing way more than I should be right now. Proceeded to go grab some duct tape and move on and never wear regular jeans again to bowling. Just don't do it.
It's the expensive ones that rip really easy.
Yeah. Costco, stretch jeans, amazing.
Yeah.
Sponsor him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, other than that, I've had countless shoe malfunctions. There was one Sunday match where I was wearing my 3G Tour Ultras, the Dynaroos, and my right foot was always notoriously really slippery, but I always found that after playing on synthetics, they would be extra slippery. And then I came back to Sherwood, and there was still wood, and I remember bowling on lane 16, and I took my first step, and the right foot slipped straight out, and I thought I was going to die, but I stopped everything, and I was like, okay, I'm good. flash forward like 2 games later. I'm facing Casey Campbell, and it's frame 2, and I take my second step, and my right foot slips straight out, and I go to stop again, and I rear up, and I couldn't stop, and I launched that ball probably 45 feet out in the air, and it came straight down on the lanes, and Casey could not stop laughing, and I could not stop laughing, and then Tim walked over and was like, "Why would you do that?" And I was like, well, clearly I was so mad after frame 1 that I decided that I wanted to throw a ball 45 feet out of the air. But yeah,
I'm just glad your father-in-law wasn't disappointed in you.
You thought it was hilarious. In any case, I learned my lesson. I moved away from the 3Gs. I love those shoes, but now I have something with a little bit more grip on my right hand, on my right shoe. Am I the only one having story time right now? Thought we were asking about malfunctions. Who's next? Somebody else got to have a malfunction somewhere.
Well, I've definitely seen quite a few like shoe-related incidents. I still remember one. I think it was TSN qualifying's, like one of either the last year or the second last year. We were playing at Bowling Depot in Calgary. There's about a game and a half left. I think it is basically a 2-horse race between me and Barry and Lane. And I ended up going up and, when the Velcro just kind of lets go for good. And, ended up happening. I've ended up going over the foul line, and literally it was like watching this slider just kind of come over me in slow motion and like land right at the center arrow, like right in front of me type thing. And then, I tried to get the shoe all done. And I think I lost by like 20 or something at the end of it. But yeah, no, I've seen a bunch of Shauna Peary end up losing her. I think it was her heel actually at Regina. That was either last year or 2 years ago. Brand new pair of shoes, and just the Velcro didn't hold.
I had that one happen to me at YBC Nationals in 2006. I was an anchor, and we were facing Northern Ontario. And we needed to win that match, and I was anchor, and I go up and I throw a strike in 10, and my heel comes off, and I slide like 3 inches past the foul line. So I was pretty mad, and I put my heel back on and took like 4 practice slides and went up and threw another strike, and it did it again. And then it happened to be the third ball too, and we ended up losing by I think 10 or something like that. And that was like the one of the few times that I really lost my cool in bowling. I kicked my heel off the lane the last time, and I threw my shoe, and it happened to be right at like the judge of play. But out like a bad catcher and caught that bad boy. It was good. It's just go by.
Yeah, it happened to me once. Open zones trials. Remember, Adam, on I think 17-18 at St. Albert, 10th frame or something like that. I 2017 I fouled twice. Put a new slider, fell off, Velcro ripped off, and then I promptly like smashed the table, and then I came back, put another heel on, different one, and I slid right through because it was too fast, and then it cost me from making singles that year. So
that happened.
Yeah, I do remember that.
That happened to Evan Lecusier at Open Provincials too, did it not? He lost it
like
a couple times.
Prairie.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's the most helpless feeling in the world. I mean, like, you just don't know, right?
Well, if you can't trust your slide, especially, man, it's so mentally, it's almost impossible to get over it. And even after you make that fix, it still takes you 3-4 frames to have any comfort whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I actually came back. I think I fouled twice in that frame, and I think I threw a 4-bagger to finish. Like, it was frame 8. I don't know how I did it. I don't know. Don't ask me how I did it, but
I don't know.
I'm
just guessing we had judges of play following us the whole. All right, guys. Well, I got a topic. One question that I'm asked a lot from I call them non-tour players mainly, I guess, is a lot of players just trying to strive to get to, what so-called next level of the sport, right? And my question for you guys is, what do you consider maybe a next level of an average player, or do you have average classifications, like an average player, above average, elite, super elite, et cetera, and what ideas would you have for some of those players to try to get to the next level of their game?
All right, that's a good one, Adam. The average ranges, I don't know. I struggle with them because it's different everywhere you go across the country, just depending on centers, pinfall conditions. Out here, a 260 is pretty damn good out here, right? But I think if you're over 250, I think you're elite. I think in most places, just because of on pinfall and stuff like that. And let's face it, league, you don't necessarily maybe are not as focused as you should during, unless you're playing a tour event or Masters or the Open or whatnot. That being said, I think the difference between maybe a 220 or 250 is honestly, it's mental game. Obviously, we always talk about the pre-shot routine, but I think honestly, spare shooting. Absolutely, I think it's the key. You can hit the middle and throw as many strikes as you want, but if you don't pick up your spares and pick up those corners, and a lot of it too is experience. How many times did Dex, or all of us at one point, played these events, cash tournaments? I wish I go back from my early years of Masters in the Open and know what I know now and how to handle myself and play those things again, because I got my ass kicked a lot, and I'm not going to be honest with it. And it works two different ways in this world, and especially in the bowling world. You get your ass kicked a few times, you come out of YBC and you quit. You see so many people quit, right? You're a big fish in YBC, and you're in a small pond. Now you're a small fish in a big pond. I think it's just perseverance. If you want to be that way, there's enough people. We're fortunate out in Alberta. We're willing to guide you the right way, but you got to play. You got to get experience. You got to get confidence, right? And the only way you get confidence is playing. And I think, and working at your game. So many people use those apps out there. I, for one, do not use that app. I do not care what my average is, my spare percentage is, my pinnage. I know just by my total how well I'm playing for the most part. And if you do use that, then use it for your advantage. Like, there's a couple local players that play at our center that always follow this app, and he's like, "Oh, I'm 40% on my corners." I was like, "Well," like Dexter said to him one day, "Okay, that's great. What have you done about it?" And he's like, "Well, nothing." I was like, "Well, there's a difference, right? There's a difference between your 230 average and your 250 to 260, right?" And that's my, in a nutshell. If you want to, just play and get experience and learn how to grind out those games.
I think you're right. Well, I agree with you on a lot of the aspects of that. But I think that like the 230, 240, or low 250 average ranges, I think you can get there from working on your spare game and your pins games and stuff like that, being consistent with your shot and just, figuring out how you're going to make those spares on a regular basis. I think if you want to move into, the 260, 270 average range at tournaments, it's definitely a combination of that. And if you're talking like the physical side of things, that's also figuring out new and unique ways to increase your strike percentage, because you're gonna average 240, 250 just making spares all day. You could do that, but you're not gonna average 270, 280 making spares all day, because you throw in one head pin. You're not gonna do that. So then it comes down to the time periods where what works at that center. Just trying to find a different way of making that scoring happen easier for you, rather than just grinding it out. If you can grind out a tournament, good for you. Like, it takes a lot of talent, and it takes a lot of skill and a lot of commitment to it, and a lot of emotional stability to do it. But I'm a big proponent of trying to make life easier for yourself. So that means come in and practice and practice picking your spares and all that stuff. But come in and practice different lines, maybe different rotations, because different speeds, because it's going to work different in different centers for everybody. So try to find something that'll give you that advantage. I think also to get to that 260, 270, 280 average range in tournament mode, which is super important now on the cash tournament side of things. I mean, even our masters, you need to shoot 9,000 for your 4 8 game sets in order. No, yeah, 9,000 to try to qualify for a team. So you need to be able to try to get to that 270 to 280 average range. Emotional stability, I cannot stress that enough, because I think getting out of YBC and when we're averaging 250, we expect the world, and we expect everything to go our way, and I think there's kind of a growth period where you learn it that that's not how it works. It just doesn't go your way just because you're physically able to make that shot. You gotta find a way to reel that in, not get overhyped when you're playing well, not get too upset when things aren't going your way, because as some of our guests have said in our time, there's always time. Figure it out, spend that time. We just had a master set where I spent 6 games trying to figure out something, and then I ended up finding something as shooting 730 or 740 for my last 2 to make something. But you have time. Don't get too mad about it, because it's the second that you get too mad, you throw yourself right out of it, and that's that. So I think those are the 2 biggest things if you want to get to that 270 elite level for tournaments, because like you said, Tim, leagues are whatever. Leagues are a good way of staying sharp, but if you want to get to that point, you've got to work on figuring out a strike percentage and work on just being emotionally stable.
Yeah, just kind of building on that, like Tim was saying, it kind of depends on which house you're playing in, what the pinfall's like. I think if you're playing a league in a house and you can kind of see all their league stats for the whole week or whatever, if you're in the top 10%, 5% of a let's say Sherwood Bowl, if you're in the top 5% of Sherwood Bowl's averages, you're probably an elite player. It may be where it's 260 plus at Sherwood Bowl, but it may be that's only 250 plus in Heritage Lanes because the conditions are tougher. So it's hard to establish an average for that. Obviously 250 and above, you're definitely at least a good player, if not a great player, if not elite status. But with that being said, how do you make that jump to being that good? Like Tim said, picking your corners, picking your chop spares, stuff like that. That definitely helps, keeps you solid, gives you a chance to be that high all the time. But when you're practicing to get better, make sure it's quality practice, not just throwing at the middle. Anybody can hit the middle. I hit the middle 92% of the time. It's not the middle that makes you good. It's hitting the side of the middle that makes you great. Pay attention to that, because if you're throwing nothing but cruncher strikes when you're practicing at Bonnie Doon Lanes and you go play Heritage, that same shot is probably not going to give you the same result. Hitting the side of the middle would probably give you the same result at a different house. So pay attention to how your practice is going, how the strikes are coming about. If they're splashers because you're hitting the pocket all the time, that's going to work everywhere. But if you're getting cruncher strikes in your practice, it's a great feeling. It's probably going to work in that house a lot of the time. But when you go somewhere else, that shot, it may work, it may not. It's almost a coin flip. So make sure your practice is quality and you're looking at how you're hitting the pockets. Because like I said, pockets will work everywhere. So
I definitely agree with the majority of your guys' points. Dex especially, that kind of emotional side of it, not getting too high, not getting too low, just that stability factor. I think it gives you just the perfect base to be able to jump to another level or find an extra gear in a tournament, for example, rather than getting so far down on yourself that it takes you a game and a half to get out, and then basically that shift is done or whatnot. I guess if there was like average classifications of we call it just a fair competitive house, nothing pie house, anything like that. I don't know, kind of the average categories that I would have for like a competitive player. Kind of classified like an average bowler between 200, 225, an above average between 225, 250, an elite from like 250, 265, and then kind of your super elite of like 265 plus. And I think all of you guys made good points on how to kind of jump to a level. I think goal making is really important. Not to make it a goal so far out of reach to jump, say, 2 categories in a year type of thing. Work on the little things, get into practice. Have that good practice mindset of that you're actually working on something for a purpose. And then apply that to even your league, right? I think we all know the tournament side of it usually brings out an extra 10, 15 pins into most players for tournament competitive average. But doesn't mean that you need to stop at league as well. I think if you apply it to league, I think it carries over into tournament mode as well.
Agreed.
Says our favorite league bowler.
Tim. What's league? Hey, I haven't thrown a ball in like 5 weeks, boys. It's feeling so good.
No one missed you at TPC, that's for sure.
We didn't even get questions.
Hey,
Perfect.
Speaking of TPC, if anybody sees Bradford, there's a reward out there, guys.
our table bandit.
Has Katie replaced her table yet?
Oh, she doesn't know that it exploded. Like we fixed her up, and Dad's like, "Yeah, it should be fine." Somebody else sat it on Friday night. It's just like kaboom. So, yeah.
Good times.
Well, I think I'm going to start up a segment, a weekly segment. I think probably either coming up this week or next week. Probably something like a top 5 or a top 10 type of a list. And I think we've got a few kind of concepts that we're already kind of throwing around. But I'll definitely leave it up to some of the podcast listeners as well. Throw some good bowling related, top 5 or top 10s that you'd like the podcast crew here to go through. I think the one we're going to do this week is going to be the top 5 truth stretchers in our game. And I think we've already kind of had a bit of a laugh at a few names that have come out here already. So check out for that this week as well.
Yeah, for sure. So think of how they stretch the truth. Do they throw 14 frames in a 10-frame game, or do they exaggerate how many strikes in a row they get, or something like that? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. We got our picks already. We'll let you know next week.
If
We had 17 head pins
with
that
hockey
game.
Players.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all. We're not picking on you. We're just gonna have a little bit of fun with it.
No, exactly. It's
Yeah.
all
But
about
we're
fun.
picking on you a little.
Yeah, yeah. You 5 shape up.
And maybe we'll bring out the top 5 bowling destructions or something like that, like Chris Bradford taking out a table, or
Mike Herbert in his car.
yeah. So come up with ideas, come up with categories that we can fill out, and the rest of the listeners can fill out their own lists and post it on Facebook or email it to us or text Tim, do whatever you want.
Text me, yeah.
Everyone's got his number.
That's right. Good old A5 Prez. Yeah.
Hey Tim, how are things going with the rule book modifications?
I can't comment at this time.
We're shooting for August, though, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I have received the fact that is I already late sending it in, so we'll get everything ready anyways for August.
You don't have Paul as AFI president?
I have as much pull as everybody else does, and when you're late for a deadline, you're late for a deadline.
Great point, Tim. Agreed.
It hurts. It kills families apparently. So Monday we had a little bit of an issue with the deadline, but that's okay.
And that's an inside comment for.
I don't even know who.
Yeah.
All right. Tim's talking in puzzles again, ladies and gentlemen. Tim talking in puzzles.
So that's for all our listeners too. If they want any rules that they want to update or whatever, or any thoughts on rules that they don't like or how that, please comment again. We'll definitely discuss them as long as we feel they need to be discussed, or if they're pretty cut and dry rules, we'll just move on. But
is there anything in Dexter's rulebook corner for this week?
I'm literally scrolling through it right now, and no.
I don't know. Mike Greenlee was talking to him about how much he loved it, so hopefully you don't disappoint him.
He does. Yeah, he does. It's everyone's favorite segment because it's our only regular segment.
That's so true.
Here's one that was relayed to me a little while ago because she was upset about it, and it turned out to be me. Rule number 25: bowling shoes. Bowling shoes must be worn during league and tournament play. Seems like a simple rule.
Regina consolation, maybe not so much.
So, I guess the great question is, I mean, with nowadays where you could change your sliders and heels on absolutely everything, and if you want to put rubber on both feet, what constitutes a bowling shoe, people? What constitutes a bowling shoe? I know lots of people who put socks over their bowling shoes.
Yep.
Is that still a bowling shoe? Now, to me, that's a sock. But so we were in Regina one year, and I was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I couldn't do anything. This was probably like 7 years ago. I could not figure out how to throw strikes, and I worked and I worked and I worked, and I couldn't figure it out. And then we were playing some, side bets on sock bowling as we do, and I was playing Matty Schultz, $20 a ball, and I threw nothing but strikes for like 20 straight balls. So I went to my good friend and mentor, Tom Stevenson, and it was like, Tommy, I think I'm gonna play consolation in my socks. And it's like, well, why? I'm like, because honestly, I've worked all weekend trying to figure this out, and I simply, this is the first thing that's actually worked for me. So right now I feel like I'm gonna bowl my socks. And he's like, well, as long as it doesn't affect anybody, then that's fine. So I started it out, and I'm pretty sure I started with a 7-bagger, and shout out to Kathy Langlois, who was bowling that constellation and bowling very well. Was not impressed with me bowling in my socks, but I didn't even know that this rule existed, to be honest, because I didn't think a rule like this would be absolutely necessary. But
clearly needed to be stated.
It was brought up to the judge of play a couple of times, and then the judge of play did talk to the tournament directors, and they said that it was fine. Maybe not quite in those words, but they said it was fine. To me, I think if it's really an advantage to not wearing bowling shoes, then take off your bowling shoes. I think the only the only reason why that this rule should exist is for the wood lanes.
For sweaty feet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? transferred to the lanes.
You'd be making it sticky no different than a foreign substance in a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I think you didn't shower, Dexter.
Does sweat is that considered a foreign substance?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know about that.
Hey, so here, well, unless it's my sweat on your sweat. Anyways, but besides that, who won consolation that year? I won consolation that year.
You did?
All right, Pete Weber.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody was all worried about Dexter.
Who do you think I am? Or who do you think you are? I am.
and I snuck in and I won it.
Oh no, I didn't win consolation. No, I started with a 7-bagger that was trash.
It was a quick fix.
But that was more strikes than I had probably thrown in my entire shift. So I will take it.
That's kind of a fair kind of segue, though, right? You're mentioning, potential of having, sweat on your socks and doing all that stuff. Well, what happens in some of these tournaments where some of the larger guys that are out there aren't necessarily wiping off sweat before a shot, and it's getting out there on the approaches, right? Like Regina's a perfect example, especially near the end of a tournament, right? There's usually people either sticking or going down. It seems to happen every year, right? And I'm sure that's a contributing factor to it.
I don't think somebody's sweating on the lanes and droplets are forming a sticky spot. I think that's just humidity of the amount of people in the building. I don't think like sweat is a contributing factor to dropping on the lanes itself. It might be contributing to the humidity in the area, but do you think, like, let's say somebody did have a droplet of sweat and it landed on lane, do you really think that's going to affect your slide?
How sweaty was Eric Chost?
No, that says nothing necessarily to do with that stat, but I've definitely seen a couple larger guys, and I know I sweat quite a bit when I'm out there, but I'm wiping it off literally all the time. But you do see droplets out there, and it's no different than seeing a droplet in the back, or you go to the bathroom and you step in one droplet. Is that going to affect you? Probably yes, right? Does it affect you after two or three slides where it's pretty much kind of gone, right? I know it's out there, and it's not necessarily on purpose or anything like that, but I think it's similar to having sweaty feet and not wearing shoes.
So much for Adam's fat guys bowl better statement, but
yeah,
no, still works.
Also throws off everybody else.
That's right.
I don't know.
Eliminates competition.
We're a professional. We're supposed to be able to dig through the tough times and come out golden. So
well, pretty soon we're all going to be wearing sweatbands just because Adam Weber wants it in the rule book.
What?
Hey, the tour does not like sweatbands on TV. We tried that already.
No, headbands were allowed.
Oh,
yeah, they're fine.
No hats.
No hats.
Dexter, you have enough time to get headbands now, Dexter.
Oh, I've got lots of time.
You better take it up with the WCBT committee before you just show up.
You should talk
I did last year. I have the texts.
Dexter, talk to the proprietors of Sure Bowl. I'm sure you can make something work out of that.
Oh, perfect for sponsorship opportunities.
That's right.
All right. Where's Gilda?
I will, if I have to, bring up the texts.
Just know you won't be the only one wearing a headband at the Tour Championship.
Really?
Well, there's somebody else that's right up there that wears headbands a lot.
All right. Will his say, "This is not a hat"? Because that's what mine's gonna say.
Oh man. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap this one up. Sorry we dragged it along for you guys, but we wanted to bring one out every week for you. So hopefully one of our guests will show up for next week. Thanks guys for hanging out. This was a long one. If people didn't know, we had some internet issues, so we had reconnection problems and all that good stuff.
if you think we talked a lot of crap during this one, you should hear all the crap we talked about before.
Yeah, that's right. This was a long one. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See it.